Hello and welcome back to Disused Railway Diaries. We're currently situated here at Wrangbrook Junction. Now at Wrangbrook Junction, what used to happen, it was a massive converging point here in Upton. Now today Wrangbrook Junction just looks like a load of overgrown brambles and nettles, and there's not really that much here that actually even resembles a railway. But to think, when the railway was actually functioning as part of the Hull and Barnsley, the Wrangbrook Spur and the Deneby-Brockborough Spur both converged with the Hull and Barnsley and went to Hull. Now we all know that the actual Hull and Barnsley, the reason why it was built was to transport coal. It didn't all close together, didn't the Hull and Barnsley, and it actually closed in sections. First section were closed from Wrangbrook Junction to Little Wheaton. Barnsdale Tunnel were closed in 1959. Trains actually carried on using Wrangbrook Junction and the Head shut up to Barnsdale Tunnel into 1965. Wrangbrook Junction, well, basically was the converging point where the line where the two spurs come off to serve other collieries, such as Frickley, Pickburn, Brodsworth, Sprotbrook Cadeby Tunnel. So the branch lines actually diverged at this point. So Wrangbrook Junction was a bustling hive of activity here in Upton. If you looked at Wrangbrook Junction today and you actually thought, God, was there even a railway there? And you look at the actual pictures of Wrangbrook Junction, it's hardly unrecognisable. A lot of Wrangbrook Junction today is under what's called infill. It were in a big hole. Wrangbrook Junction was the lowest point in Upton. You can't get any lower. Since then, the actual cuttings have been infilled with infill, and today it just resembles a patch of waste ground. Another thing about the railway in Upton, the last train went through virtually unannounced, and when it actually closed, the order for its actual closure was actually published, and within 3 days, the last train rumbled through Upton, virtually unannounced, and people just didn't even care. So what we're going to do next, we're going to take a look up the only bit that even really resembles that there were actually even a railway here. So probably these abutments that are behind me are the probably only remnants of the actual line that once was here. This actually carried the actual main line down from Barnsley to Hull. There's a number of these in Upton. There's a number of these where the bridge has been took down, demolished, dismantled, and all you're left is the actual walls. And you find it quite common in disused railway exploration that this is what you've got left. So yeah, as you can see, it's been turned into some sort of like climbing frame with youths and stuff, you know what I mean? So yeah, this is it. See, the thing about Hull and Barnsley, why it were never really successful, but the fact it never actually really went anywhere. It didn't actually specifically serve any major places. And what it was is, the stations were double-barrelled stations. So you've got like Upton and North Elmsall, Moorhouse and South Elmsall. You've got Hensworth and South Kirby. So in this area, it didn't actually serve anywhere. It went close to places, but it didn't actually... The stations were never really central. It wasn't a central railway. The route it took and the places it served and its purpose, or its downfall, you know, it was a freight line. Passenger traffic were never very, very popular. We're just walking west now on the track bed. This was actually the last bit to close. Wrangbrook Junction was an head shut after the closure of Barnsdale Tunnel. So the line came into Wrangbrook Junction, then it went back out in two spurs. The two spurs were kept open for a number of years. Now the biggest thing that actually closed this line was the closure of Upton Colliery when it went in 1965. Now Upton Colliery itself, it was a failure. The actual Upton Colliery itself, it was a failure for various reasons. So once that went in 1965, the railway, you know, it more or less quickly followed. So what we're going to do, we're going to take a look what's left. Right, so you can see behind me we've got railway cottages, which are on the Barnsdale Bar to Dale Lane Road. They are only the really proper functioning part of the railway, shall I call it, here in Upton. You know, the cottages are the only bit that's actually functioning, the rest of it's gone. And they're actually called the railway cottages, and they're there. the rail, and beyond that were the sidings. But we're just coming out of Wrangbrook Junction now. This is the Wrangbrook cutting, and this is probably, looking at it, this is starting to look more like the Hull and Barnsley should look, rather than it being an overgrown mess of trees and brambles. Steep-sided cuttings cut out of magnesium limestone from either side. This is stereotypical for Hull and Barnsley. Steep-sided cuttings were a feature all the way across line. This would have been cut out with dynamite and explosives. It's not a deep cutting, I must admit, but beyond this way of Wrangbrook Junction, it's probably the first piece of infrastructure you come across, and it's the first earthworking. We always talk about geology at land, don't we? We always say it was built through magnesium limestone, you know, that golden saying. Obviously we've got magnesium limestone on this side of cutting. Stereotypical magnesium limestone, nice and dry, a dry rock, right? But on this side of cutting, the geology at land and the actual rock that the land actually had actually starts to change, and the actual magnesium limestone starts to thin out towards the south. And if you look at it, if you look at this side of cutting, you've got sandstone. Sandstone. We've got sandstone at this side of cutting, magnesium limestone on that side of cutting. Two completely different stones. It does just to show that the actual geology at land did actually change. It was sandstone, magnesium, limestone. Here we are at Wrangbrook. We're just next to Wrangbrook, hence the name. The place gets its name, Wrangbrook. Right, it's actually known as Wrangbrook, this part of Upton. We've got Hangman's Bridge behind us. The abutments here, what's left of the Hull and Barnsley. So it used to cross this beck. It is a dry beck, and it's only a seasonal beck as well as Wrangbrook. It only actually turns into a brook or a river when it gets really bad, when we get a lot of rain. And majority of the time it's a dry riverbed is Wrangbrook. But when we get a lot of rain, when we get a lot of wet weather, it does actually start to flow. And a lot of people don't even know it's there, so it's actually a seasonal beck. And this is what they built to get the Hull and Barnsley over Wrangbrook. I mean, it's just another set of abutments. It's the old Disused Railway line, so that's what's left here at Wrangbrook. So we've just come further west on line, and we're currently at Upton and North Elmsall station. And what's actually left of Upton and North Elmsall station. Like I've said, there were a lot of double-barrelled named stations on Hull and Barnsley, and Upton and North Elmsall was just one of them. And today, the only really remnants of Upton and North Elmsall station is the westbound platform. That's the westbound platform, so trains towards the west would have used that platform, and that's all that's left of it. It actually stands in good condition, right, to say that it hasn't served as a platform for the best part of 50 odd years. So that's the only really remnants of it here in Upton. Obviously the eastbound platform, the one behind me, but behind us, is completely gone, and all the station buildings have gone, and it's hardly even, you could hardly even tell there were even a station once here. But that's all that remains. So we're here currently at Upton and North Elmsall station, which, like I say, is a double barrel station. And it was a grand station, we're Upton and North Elmsall station. It had elaborate buildings, and if you look at the actual pictures of it today, it hardly even resembles what once stood here. So that's it, that's Upton and North Elmsall station for you. So what happened to the line after Upton and North Elmsall is it crossed Johnny Brown's Common, and it went over very tricky terrain actually. It took a very high route, did the Hull and Barnsley, and it were all, from Upton it were on plateaus, it were like on hill plateaus, so the land from it actually descended. And it made its way into Barnsley, across Johnny Brown's Common and up the now Elmsworth bypass. So what we're going to feature next in the show is the section of line from Elmsworth and South Kirby up to Barnsdale Tunnel. So that's where we're going to go next, Elmsworth and South Kirby.